What if I told you that you can make your own countertops? And you could do it pretty simply. Today I'm going to show you how to do that. We're going to turn that stack of wood back there into a butcher block countertop. Check it out. Alright, first thing you gotta do when you got a bunch of rough sawn lumber is you gotta flatten it out. Now ideally, if I had a giant joiner, I'd be running it on the joiner first, but I don't have one of those, so straight to the planer. You can see I'm flipping it every single time, so if there is any imperfections, it's going to flatten out by going back and forth each time you pass it through. So we got this thing planed down, and now that we've got it planed down, we're going to need to joint the edges before we go ahead and rip it down to size. But trying to keep this big old 12-foot piece of 8-quarter hickory steady going through the joiner is going to be very difficult. So I'm going to cut it down slightly oversized of what I want it to be in the final length. So because it's not straight, you don't want to be cutting too crazy crooked. It's a lot easier to avoid jamming up the blade. Just use your jigsaw instead of a miter saw. I marked it out over here. Again, it's slightly bigger because you're going to need to cut it to size later. I'm just giving myself, it's not going to be perfectly straight because I'm going straight edge off of a non-straight edge, but we get it cut. Give ourselves a little bit of a reference line. So, take the jigsaw, just chop that thing in half. So next step, we're going to move on to the jointer. With the jointer, we're getting that one straight edge. We need a flat side to run against the table saw fence in order to rip all of our strips. So again, you can see I'm switching it back and forth, flipping that board around each time. And what that's doing is if that fence is off, let's say it's 89 degrees instead of a perfect 90, it'll get corrected by switching it back and forth each time I pass it through. Takes a lot of passes because you don't want to try to take out too much at a time. You'll end up getting a whole bunch of chunks flying out of it. So flipping it back and forth over and over, taking probably a 32nd off, maybe a 16th, and that'll get you there. Okay, so now we've got this planed out, we've got it jointed. The next step is to rip all these pieces into a bunch of strips that we will then glue up for our butcher block. So I'm going to make this about 1.25 inches thick, which means I'm making 1.25 inch strips of this, and then each piece will then be, the thickness of it will be the width of each piece. So a whole bunch of ripping. Make sure you've got the right type of blade on there. I've got a hardwood blade that will help cut through this a lot easier. I have to crank it up high enough so we can get through this, but it's this is the tedious part. You got to make sure you get a whole bunch of straight strips. It's going to make it glue up a lot smoother. So let's get to it. Alright, so we get the fence set up to the width that we want, and we're going to just start pushing this hickory through. Now, like I said, it's important to have the correct blade on there. The hardwood blade is going to help cut through that hickory a lot better, but still need to take it slow because it's a big, dense piece of wood, and we want to make sure that those are straight cuts and that we don't get too many burn marks on them, because that's what tends to happen if you have the wrong blade in there. You're going to burn up those sides trying to force it through, and so the correct blade will help cut through that a lot easier, and again, nice and straight. Got to pump a whole bunch of these through. You can see right here it is slightly more than 4 feet long and slightly less than 4 feet wide. It's going to be a interesting shape, kind of a hexagon-ish type of look, maybe octagon, I don't know. Many sides, right? And so what I want to do is clamp it together and make sure it's all going to be nice and tight before I put glue on it, and kind of mark things out. those lines that I drew on it are going to help me line it back up while I do the glue up. Now, I didn't get the glue up on camera because, well, it didn't go as smoothly as I hoped. But you can see, got the foreman in the background there cleaning everything up. You know, child labor, it's fantastic. You know, you feed them and they clean things up. I think we're onto something there. Glue everything up. The old squeeze bottle was taking forever, so you can see I end up switching to a big old bottle and just dump it on there and roll it all into place. After the glue up, take it over to CNC to flatten it, taking off just a little bit at a time. I skipped videoing the sanding and finishing process because, well, it took a whole bunch of time, and I'm sure you didn't really want to see me sand it for 3 hours. So there's finished product. Turned out nice. Finished it with a mineral oil and some wax, and it looks fantastic, especially up against that black island. There's the full kitchen. We refaced it and painted it. It looks really nice. Customer is happy, and I think we got a nice piece there. Make sure you like and subscribe. We'll see you next time.